Good evening, viewers. Hope you're all doing great in the quarantine holidays. I hope you are safe too. Today, I am joined by Dibyaneeta Pradhan, who is a fashion model and a social activist who is interested in Bollywood, who watches a lot of Bollywood. And we have a lot of questions to ask to her in connection with the nepotism debate which is being going on the social media for the past couple of weeks or so. So, welcome, Dibyanita. Thank you so much for accepting our invite and coming to our show.
Thank you very much, Vladimir, for having me on this platform. Really, it's my immense pleasure. Yeah.
How are you doing? How is quarantine going on? Is everything fine?
Yes, everything is fine, regardless the fact that has a growing cases in Corona. But yeah, I'm trying to do fine, as you can see,
Okay,
like everyone
so
else.
coming to the point, social media is fueling over nepotism in Bollywood like never before, courtesy of Dil Bacharo's release, which was released on July 26th, if I'm not wrong. But how legit are these claims? Even people of ARR have come out and expressed their concern over this nepotism. Are they legit? What's really going on in Bollywood? Can you elaborate us for it?
Well, in recent weeks, nepotism has become the center stage in mainstream public discourse. Basically, in Bollywood, as we can see, we're also seeing that it is highly influenced with the cases of nepotism. In Bollywood or whichever field one may consider, there is no denying that the prevalence of influential families that will nepotistic influence. In the same time, a lot depends on actually how we frame this debate and how and the nature of contingent of this discourse is to be discussed in the public forum. That's what is a matter of focus, moreover. But I still think that Bollywood has produced even the finest actors with immense versatility and talent, in spite
Yeah,
of being treated as a pit of
obviously.
nepotism and all such negative vibration, whatever you're talking right now. So yeah.
Yeah, we can't deny it because Bollywood is our heartbeat. We can't deny that, of course. And but while considering all these claims, all these debates, all these trolls, while considering all this, Shiveta Tripathi in an interview has said, quoting Nawazuddin, "No one can ignore the challenge." And one of the notable producer, Ram Kamal Mukherjee, in a reply to AR's Twitter, said that we would love to work with AR Rahman because that would be a graceful thing to do. But the amount of salary which ARR is expecting is falling outside our limits. Which is why we are not able to work with AR Rahman, even though we are willing to do. So we can't simply ignore these comments, even though we are inclined to a fact that there is kind of nepotism going in Bollywood. So does this statement mean nepotism is just a mere illusion and it's not happening in the Bollywood at all?
Well, Vladimir, it is absolutely not an illusion. Of course, there are people who has got affected with this fact, but also it is not the only limiting factor, as we have said that ARRs and Rajkamal Mukherjee's issue. But I would like to see it as a financial matter, moreover than that of nepotism matter. But what I'm trying to say, it is not the only limiting factor to box whole actor groups crisis or maybe the opportunity crisis into one box. So nepotism do exist and it is an objection, and moreover nowadays it is an observation, and there are plenty of examples to it. And referring to what Shweta Tripathi has said, like quoting Nawazuddin, talent, no one can ignore talent. I do believe that if nepotism could have stopped new talent in Bollywood, these actors like Amitabh Bachchan, Rajnikant, Rajkumar, Ayushmann Khurrana, and Boman Irani, Vidya Balan, most important Kangna Ranaut, who is actually acing the space right now, wouldn't have been produced and won the hearts of India. Instead, these artists have consistently proved that no one can ignore talent, whatever the circumstances may take place.
And you mentioned Kangana Ranaut. Actually, I was about to ask about her. So it's better to go with Kangana Ranaut now. Kangana Ranaut is a character which has controversies written all over her. Because for the past 4 years, social media hasn't forgotten for her for all the wrong reasons. But after the death of Sushant Singh Rajput, she went live on Instagram. She lashed out at Bollywood and she almost blasted over everybody in the Bollywood. But if we go down the memory lane to 2016 or 2017, isn't it exactly the same kind of damage she and her sister did to Roshan? Doesn't it sound like a hypocrisy now, coming out and lashing out at Bollywood, acting like I am very pure, I'm not a kind of person who nepotistic in the real? Doesn't it sound like a hypocrisy, or have the Bollywood industry has become a snake's pit where we don't know which is more poisonous, or whether the snake is poisonous itself or not? Can you elaborate Kankana Ranaut's case, because I'm completely baffled by her response?
Absolutely, everybody is shocked the way she has lashed out. Well, when it comes to Kangana, I must say everybody knows how fearless she is, and she has always been like such a self-sufficient propagator of her own story. So what she I would view this in a different dimension. So what she and her sister did to Hrithik Roshan was completely personal and a defensive subject. But the argument and this and the question that she has actually put in that video right after the death of Sushant Singh Rajput had somehow put effects on the confidence of industry. So the preferred binary is not just privileged versus non-privileged, but she has put it very clear between the outsider versus insider, with the belief that most of the people, we do believe that there are all outraged reserved for the insiders. To be perfectly honest with you, Vladimir, what I have to say, I do realize one thing, that I am going to make peace with nepotism once, and all she's but I do realize in the same part that she's referring to only a perfectly democratic society where all this toxicity wouldn't be there. So that's no hypocrisy or propaganda or something as such, I believe. And the idea also she's propagating is not to call for a level playing high field with huge dynamic of changes and all sort, but to change this so-called outsiders' desire to displace the insider. Why can't we just accept the newcomers as new insider without even dismantling this insider-outsider structure as a whole? So, yes.
Yeah, fine. We can debate about Kankana Ranaut's case for an entire day, and still we would be still debating for the entire day if we start Kankana Ranaut's case. So I have to stop it right there, and I'll come to my next question. So we are now in a point where we both can agree there is indeed a nepotism going on in Bollywood, if I'm not wrong. So if nepotism exists, can you explain us in brief about the mental traumas which celebrities are forced to undergo by the said gang? Is there any certain pattern they use to rip someone apart, just like what happened with Sushant Singh Rajput, if it's indeed a suicide?
Personally, I think it depends on what type of celebrity we are talking about, moreover, because today, more than ever, there is a preponderance of talentless celebrities. I can name Rakhi Sawant in it, who only claims to fame is that they somehow made it into People magazine or gossip TV shows, and when they see that their unjustified fame begins to wane, it often helps to dig up some part of their past to show that they have had the struggle to overcome. Well, the agenda behind behind getting somebody close is they will be in the clutch. They already are trained. They are already knowing the do's and don'ts of the industry. So it can be counted as a suppressing catalyst for the growing talents who wants to exploit this exposure without prior training and godfather. So yes, it does have a pattern, but not as same as Sushant Singh Rajput,
Yeah, Sushant Singh Rajput's case cannot be denied, and we are all in grief. We are all grieving for the past 1 month for Sushant Singh Rajput, because we all know what kind of talent that guy possessed once. So now I'm coming to his death now, because I want to conclude it with the death of Sushant Singh Rajput. Sushant Singh Rajput is one of the charming and youngest actor from Bollywood. He was found dead in his apartment. Police claimed that it would be a suicide, and then social media raged upon. CM of Maharashtra issued a notice for the police to investigate it in another pattern, and now the investigation is going on. Many believe that the suicide is a reaction to the ongoing nepotism. What's your take? Do you think the suicide would have been an effect of nepotism, or would there be some other adverse effects which had to play a major role in his death?
What began as a hashtag about this tragic death of Sushant Singh has acquired a life of its own, I believe. But how do we understand this sudden increase in the matter of nepotism, given that the nepotism is not a new phenomenon? So we have been seeing in the reports that he was suffering from clinical depression from past 6 months or whatever the media is saying. But I would rather say putting focus on depression as the only cause of his death is entirely even without finding whether the nepotism has played a role as a fragment of the depression is where I see the loophole exactly. But if you put all this aside, an actor like Sushant Singh Rajput, who had a well-built academic career starting from scratch like a background dancer and then getting a pick of television industry like Pavitra Rishta, and a man full of patience and passion with few other hits through the Bollywood industry, I do not think that depression is the only reason for his death, but indeed I believe he was a powerhouse of talent, and somehow he couldn't get his share of success in this brutal Bollywood. So
So
yes, I
if
do believe that.
if I completely get you in the right sense, then you are quoting that the depression might have been due to the nepotism which he is undergoing, right?
Exactly.
So just
Because
one.
nobody is focusing on what is the cause of that death, and what is the cause of that depression for which they are quoting nepotism as a wholesome of area. So I think nepotism has played its own role.
Okay,
Bollywood needs to do Bollywood needs to do some realistic soul searching from now on, I guess.
of course, we have to, because we can't deny, we can't ignore the deaths of our talent. We can't ignore the number of deaths which has been piling up due to the depression too. Just one more question: since you are growing, since you are into the industry now, since you are doing a lot of modeling, I have just one more question. Do you have any advice to the youngsters who is coming up to the cinema industry with a lot of dreams? Do you have any advice how to overcome this kind of nepotism? Can you be quick with the response?
Well, I would say everybody that please believe on your talent. Nepotism is such a small social taboo to affect somebody's ambition, which is actually strong. So never dare to even disbelieve your own talent. You're the only one who is the powerhouse of everything. So nepotism is such a small issue. Depression is such a small issue if you believe in yourself. That's all I would like to say to every
Thank
youngster who is trying to make an entry.
Thank you, Divya. Thank you so much. I feel that these kind of answers would surely enlighten people who are watching this and who is having confusion over the nepotism in Bollywood. Thank you so much for joining us in such a short span of time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Uh, Thank you, viewers, for tuning in. We'll catch you in another episode of Backstage Talks. Until then, this is Vladimir signing off. Take care and be safe. Goodbye.